Reincarnated off-road brand Scout just unveiled an all-new pickup truck and SUV. We've got complete details about both of these concept vehicles, the Terra and Traveler. Plus, we'll share in-depth styling analysis from a real-life car designer, and we'll even see how these new vehicles compare to their historical predecessors. There's a lot to get to, so don't you go anywhere. Welcome to the Automotive Esoterica YouTube channel. I am journalist Craig Cole, and this is Jason White. He's an author, a professor at the College for Creative Studies in Detroit, and even a real-life car designer, though you wouldn't know that based on how he's dressed. But anyway, Jason, it's great to see you again.
It's great to see you, Craig. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and I think I'm going to be seeing you a lot more in the future.
What, have you been consulting your fortune teller again?
It's called foreshadowing. We've got other videos coming out, but make sure you're subscribed. So Jason's going to be giving us that in-depth design analysis of these Scout vehicles, but to keep things interesting, he has not seen any photos or videos of these products, so his reactions should be genuine. So it's all in your imagination right now, but we've got the photos loaded in the iPad here. And we're soon going to give you that analysis. But first, before we get to that big news, a little bit of information about the channel here. We're aiming to provide unique and informative automotive content, stuff that you can't get anywhere else, because, I mean, if you're just going to copy what other people are doing, what's the point,
There is no point, yeah.
Exactly. So what we're going to do here at Automotive Esoterica is focus on vehicle design-related features. We're going to have other scintillating automotive discussions with some real characters in the business here. And of course, we will have more videos of my 1936 Ford V8 sedan, which is probably what already brought you to this channel in the first place, but we got more features coming out of that. We got big plans, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. But back on task, Scout. Now, before we get to the new products, we should probably cover a little bit of the brand's history, because I don't think a lot of Americans are familiar with Scout. What is it?
Well, Scout was a brand of vehicles that were sold by International Harvester from about the mid-60s through 1980. And most people would recognize International Harvester as a brand that sells farm equipment
agricultural
or
stuff.
makes big trucks, you know, things of that nature. So you wouldn't readily associate them with these type of vehicles, but they do have a cult following. And then you've got the rest of the market who they may have known the Scout brand at the time but forgot it since then, and other people who never were introduced to it at all.
So Scouts are sort of like, Scout was an early off-road brand, if you will, akin to Jeep or maybe the Ford Bronco. And if you put a Scout next to a Bronco, you'd probably have a hard time telling them apart, honestly.
The one I'm looking at right now on the tablet, I mean, if I showed you this one and then a Bronco from the same era in flash frames, there's a good chance that you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. It might be a fun party game to just show flash frames of Broncos and Scouts and see if you can get it. But as you can see from this one, this is very typical of what a Scout looked like at the time. Very clean, very product-like, and very utilitarian-looking.
Form follows function, although the form is not unattractive with this vehicle.
No, it's not.
Not at all.
And even in the advertising, there's a lot of emphasis placed on just the vehicle's just very clean but very strong appearance. There's a bear coming up in
and
this
look how
one.
happy that family is, too.
Look, it's a bear. But even with the trim, you can see how well integrated it is. There's a very timeless feel about these vehicles that carried through, and in the interior as well. The interior is very basic, bare bones, simple, straightforward. So yeah, I mean, the design of these vehicles is just as attractive now as it was back then. Anytime I see these on the road, I stop and I want to take a picture and put it on Instagram.
So what are you expecting, not having seen it yet, from the new model?
Well, I would expect, based on, I was listening to the same presser you were, my expectation would be that these vehicles are going to be very simple, very clean, a la Rivian maybe. That's what I'm expecting. Something that's very clean, straightforward, honest, based on what I was hearing Chris Benjamin and other people saying in the presser. So we'll see what it looks like. I'm really interested to see it.
Let's check out the new model then. Let's not keep the folks waiting out there. They were aiming, in the press release at least, to honor the spirit of the original Scout vehicles, and based on what I have seen, they nailed it.
All right, well,
let's see what Jason has to say.
Scout Terra, here we go.
This is the pickup truck.
Oh my goodness, that looks great. That is really nice.
I think he likes it.
No, I do. I mean, I'm immediately drawn to the proportions. I think the proportions are really nice, but I also, the detailing is just right. There's just the right amount of detail there. They have the way that the grille is done. It's that nice lozenge shape that you saw in on some of the earlier Scouts. The overall feel I have. Let's look at the profile here. You were saying earlier in the presser to me, soft shoulder, because Chris Benjamin mentioned that.
Contrasting that with the shoulder, that softness comes from the Scout 80, the beautiful form language.
And it seems a bit odd that you would mention.
Well, you wouldn't expect that in a vehicle reveal. It's always like masculine, hard edges. We made this thing look rugged. But soft shoulder? I've never heard that before.
Well, there is a very soft shoulder here, and I could tell by the way it goes from this really dark sky tone here and rolls into this, kind of lighter blue, and then the actual amber color, which is reflected from the ground. All of this stuff right here, when you're going from here into the wheelhouse, into the wheel flare right there, getting all this stuff right here to work well, and they pick the best place in the world to photograph it, outside, where you have a warm ground, the sky is cool. It's for this type vehicle and these forms, they picked a great place to show it. This is where being a car designer is really difficult, when you're working in very, very basic, simple, clean forms. When it's something that's really outrageous, and has lots of surface changes, then you can go nuts and not be particularly careful about, how things relate to each other.
So doing a clean, simple design is more challenging.
Far more challenging. And just looking at this, these surfaces are really, really sophisticated. Very, very beautifully executed, and the details executed very well. The details do not upstage the form, and they're beautiful to look at, but they don't upstage the overall form. It looks capable. It also looks really timeless, and it looks like this is still going to look good 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now.
And we'll get to some of the vehicle specs and some of the nuts and bolts features here in just a minute, but really wanted to focus on the design first to give you guys a good look at what's going on here.
This is really nice too, the way they integrated the skid plate in the front. This is something that you could very easily just like throw onto any vehicle and call it a day, but the way that they've integrated it into the vehicle here, they lined it up right with the ends of the headlamp, or those look like daytime running lights, but they lined it up right with that. This is all very well proportioned, very well aligned. So overall, just my reaction is that this vehicle has been really well considered. Everything from the proportions to the detailing. There's a look at the vehicle just in terms of proportion. But yeah, very, very, very attractive pickup truck, definitely.
So both of these models are obviously very closely related. The Terra truck and the Traveler SUV. The truck is going to have a 5.5-foot bed, which is pretty standard for any mid-size pickup these days. They've also integrated a step into the side and a grab handle, so you can actually get up and access things that are in the cargo box, because if you look at your typical half-ton pickup, half-ton truck these days, you can't see anything in the bed because they're like 8.5 feet in the air. So this is very nice to have a step and a handle to help you get in there, and I think it's a very good feature to have.
Yeah, and it's got the space in the bed that you would expect for a vehicle of this type, which is very important.
Do you see a lot of Rivian here?
You know, I have to be honest, I do.
Yeah.
There is a great deal of Rivian here, and that's probably the surface language and some of the detailing. But I would actually say, and this is not critical of Rivian, I like the detailing here a little bit more. I think this is actually, the detailing has a level of polish to it here that is not necessarily on the Rivian. Now that doesn't mean I don't like the way the Rivian looks, but I really can appreciate, especially when I look closely at everything that's going on here.
You might be a little biased, Jason.
Okay, that's fair. Full disclosure, I'm a friend of Chris Benjamin's. We went to school together, we graduated together, many late nights together working on our clay models, lots of belly laughs. And when
you just talked to him like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I
did.
Yeah. I remember nights where we got really tired and we would play the Rocky theme, Eye of the Tiger, at like 3:30, just blasted on the boombox to get us going when we were getting tired. So yeah, I've worked alongside him at school, and I'm personally very happy.
I was going to say he did you proud here.
No, I'm really happy that he's doing well and that he's associated with such a great pair of products here. And he obviously had a lot of success under Alf Gilles at Stellantis, and that's continuing. I like it when good things happen to good people, and I can tell you he's one of the good people in this business.
Absolutely.
So.
All right, well, that's a quick look at the Terra pickup truck. Let's explore the Traveler SUV now.
Yeah, obviously this one shares a lot of components with the truck. We already talked about the front graphics and how they relate to Scout, but I would also point out there's one very key detail here that is Scout heritage, and it's this window back here. That people will pick up. Those who are in the know, they'll say, aha, that is a Scout feature.
It's also BMW, though, because they have the Hofmeister kink, right?
Yeah,
Or
but
is that a different implementation of it?
I think it's a different implementation. I think it's different enough that people won't look at that and say BMW.
Yeah.
But again, with the form language, this is actually a really beautiful color on this vehicle, and the way that it turns purple. It's orange here, the main color, but it turns purple as soon as it crosses over and points at the sky.
So the reflections are...
Just the tone of the color through here really shows how much shape there is. And I got to tell you, again with the soft shoulder, if you go back and look at the early Scouts, you'll see that these surfaces are very soft, very, very gentle. They're strong, they're bold, but they're not
hard edge.
They're not hard edge.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sophistication here to these surfaces. I know I'm repeating myself, but this really is what makes this work. In the hands of somebody else who is not as gentle and not as nuanced, this wouldn't work. I wish more vehicles were this minimalist, this clean, this mature, quite frankly.
Mature is a fantastic way to describe it.
I'm so sick and tired of angry vehicles. I really am. I mean, all these cars have to glower at you all the time, and it just gets tiring. This is restful. I look at this and I feel like a little bit of relief. I know that sounds weird, but speaking as the designer, I actually find that these designs very restful, clean, and it confirms for me that Chris put together a great team.
It's also interesting because you have the same basic form that you would get with a Wrangler or a Bronco or a 4Runner, but it doesn't look like any of those vehicles at all.
No, it does not. The Bronco is much more severe, actually. When you look at the details and everything, it's a lot more severe than this. This, I would say, has a little bit more granular detail than, say, a Rivian.
Okay.
So I'm already starting to think to myself, okay, where does this fall in the landscape of these vehicles? There are some details, Craig, that I want to call special attention to.
Please do.
Let's go to the Terra, for example. Now, they talked a lot in the presser about how they didn't want any of the components to look tacked on or not part of the vehicle or an afterthought. They wanted them to be right at the forefront of the vehicle. And one area where I definitely see that is in this handle, this grab handle that's at the back of the cab. Comes off of the top here really well and then runs into the bed, dead ends into it right there. But this is so beautifully crafted. If you take a close look at it, the texture that's on the inside here, the outside's A-gloss. These are the kind of features that you see in a vehicle. And I'm not even just talking about a truck. Any vehicle. If you see detail to this level, the potential customer is looking at this. This is where design can make or break a sale. A lot of the best vehicles out there do this. They have detail level, like Stellantis is very good with the kind of Easter eggs they leave everywhere.
Absolutely.
People see these things and they like the thought and they like that level of detail is there. There's other things here too. The wheels also, I gotta say, are kind of a very subtle nod to Scout's past, because Scout had these kind of deep-ribbed, off-road wheels. These aren't an exact copy of that, nor do they really, they don't exactly mimic it, but I think that works really well for this type of vehicle. The other thing, too, that I would mention, looking at both of these, and these vehicles do share a lot of components, admittedly, but when I look at the two of them, if I had to choose between which I was going to, I'm not an off-roader, so but if I were to choose which one I wanted to buy, I would buy the Traveler, and the reason why is very simple. Because, the one piece of critical commentary that I could say about these is they maybe tread a little too close to the Rivian in terms of proportion. That's the one thing I noticed. Now, when I look at the Traveler, and I look at the back of this thing, and I've got it circled here, the back of this vehicle, it's not tacked on. If you look at the SUV version of the Rivian, it looks like a SUV version of the truck. This one does not.
So it's different enough,
Yes.
but it's also well integrated.
It's
too.
well integrated, and
Yeah.
it doesn't look like it is beholden to the truck architecture in such a way that it destroys all this beautiful farm language they've been cultivating. I can see it as a separate vehicle, even though it's sharing a lot of componentry.
Do you think which one do you think they designed first?
That's a good question, and sometimes the answer is not what you think. The only person who knows the answer to that is Chris and his team. I don't know. It could very easily have been one or the other. But when I see this level of consideration for the two and the details that I just pointed out, I mean, as a designer, I know that they've worked very hard on this, and it also tells me that Chris has recruited a very good team.
So we've got the kick up in the shoulder line there, or the belt line. We've got the soft shoulder. We've got the square grille, and sort of the flat hood. So that looks like a Scout then, right? They've honored the heritage.
I think they've honored it in as much as they can also like introduce it to a new group of buyers who don't know anything about the brand.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't tethered to the brand in such a way that it limited their possibilities. The interior, though,
Yes, we
can
gotta
get to
check that out.
The interior, the way they described it as I was listening, they talked a lot about tactile buttons, and
Yes.
this is something that I teach human factors at.
So this is right up your alley then.
Yeah, and I've been preaching this for a while, that you cannot just simply throw a big screen in there and call it a day. You know, you have to be able to get at this stuff, and nobody wants to go 3 layers of programming to turn the volume down on the
those
radio.
heated seats,
Nobody wants to do that. So, looking at this interior, it's very simple, very clean. They've got a screen that looks very capable here, but it's not one of these, like, they are not engaging in the stupid competition of who has the biggest screen. And they've got these buttons down here. You know, I think overall, just the way that this is executed, it's clean. I use the word clean so much, but
it fits.
But it fits, everything works together. Here's a great detail shot showing these tactile,
Yes,
these are toggles. This is great. Peugeot is doing stuff like this right now. Toggles are really actually making a comeback.
Because they're better.
Well,
Knobs and dials and buttons are so much better for certain functions.
Toggles also are quite useful. You can put them on an edge like this, and they have 2 functions, up and down. And and they then return to the middle, and I'm sure that was a designer's idea, because we don't want to see them all buck teeth like this. You know, so they go to the middle again after you've already hit them like 30 degrees or whatever.
Yeah. The OCD would not. People
Yes,
would not want
our
to see
OCD would not allow
different
that.
switches that.
Yeah, but you know, and then there's the power. I think is that a volume control on the steering wheel itself?
That might be the ignition switch, actually.
Might be. Well, yeah, this would probably be the power switch right here. But just the way it's executed, and the way a lot of these other buttons are executed, just looks very robust. It doesn't look like these things are going to snap off in 2 seconds.
And those are not parts bin components
No,
either.
they're not.
So these are still technically concept vehicles, even though they look pretty damn well production ready. But those are not switches you get in a Passat. Those are not Audi seat controls either.
No,
Those look
no.
completely unique.
No, they are not. Also, one of the great things about having an electric vehicle is you get to totally repurpose the packaging.
Yes.
And here we have the frunk, and it's the same kind of situation on the truck as well. But this shows you the benefits of doing this. You now can use this differently, and it's kind of funny because you'd never know by looking at the exterior of this thing that it has this kind of packaging, which to some people might seem like a little bit of a missed opportunity, but on the other hand, you're honoring Scout, so that, you know, you have to prioritize which is most important, and clearly the brand was important, but, you know, and they also have a fabric cabana
the
roof.
Cabana top, they call it.
That's pretty cool. I mean,
I expect kettle drum music to play every time you roll it back. I don't know why.
Now,
it probably doesn't. But.
My OCD brain immediately goes to, okay, what's it made of? How long is it going to last? You know, is it going to start? You know, after a while you're going to have to replace it. But I like the fact that it's there. There's a human quality. Actually, you know what? I would say that about these 2 vehicles on the whole. I think it extends to the forms too. And just this really subtle, you know, shape through here. There's a human quality a humanity to this form language that I think will endear itself to a lot of people.
Is it the organic nature
Yes.
of the forms?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because again, it looks robust, but it doesn't look like it was designed with a Jinzu knife either. It looks.
Yeah.
This is very attractive to me.
I agree. Let's go back to the truck for a second, because there's a very interesting feature in the cabin of that as well.
Yes, and they talked about it. You have the option of putting a bench seat in the
seat.
front. Now, how many cars these days have bench seats? I
don't think any.
I'm thinking zero.
I mean, other than maybe a pickup truck.
Now, I do have to say that, as you know, having worked in interiors for 15 years and knowing a lot about human factors, this does pose a problem as far as laterally holding you in the seat.
Yep.
If you're doing some serious off-roading, I would bet this could be a problem. If you're not going to do that, then it's not an issue.
Which is probably like 98% of potential buyers.
Well, that's what we kind of covered that to start with. You know, there's that core you're going for, and then there's everybody else.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's really nice what they're doing, if you look
there we go.
closely, you can see this perforation in the leather, and you can see that it vaguely resembles plaid. And they called that out and said this is what they were actually doing. Now, that's interesting to me because they're using the heritage of the brand as a launching point for something new and interesting. They're not just taking the old stuff and cutting and pasting it and putting it in the new.
Copy, paste,
They're using the old as a springboard for some new ideas, which I think that's a much more sophisticated use of heritage, frankly, than a lot of other people have done in the past. So that's good too.
Let's talk some specs then, because the speeds and feeds are just as important as the design. These vehicles are going to be built on a body-on-frame chassis. I didn't really expect that, because most new vehicles tend to be unibody.
It is true. I mean, a body on frame it goes all the way back to the beginnings of the automobile.
To the Roman chariot technology, right?
It is the oldest probably way to build a vehicle, but for a truck it makes sense.
It does. But with EVs, you get into sort of a gray area too, because you make a skateboard chassis with a big battery pack and electric
That's
motors,
true.
and then you mount the body on top.
Yeah.
So body-on-frame chassis, solid rear axle, very old school, very traditional pickup to have a live axle. They're offering front and rear mechanical differentials for extra traction when you're off-road. These vehicles are also designed to fit up to 35-inch tires. They should have about a foot of ground clearance and be able to drive through nearly 3 feet of water.
That's
so
cool.
How's that for capability?
Yeah.
They are going to be available with an all-electric powertrain. Not a surprise these days.
No.
But, Scout is also offering a range-extended drivetrain. So basically, there's going to be a small electric motor, I believe it's mounted at the back of the truck and the SUV, that basically charges the battery. So you get up to 350 miles of range with the pure electric version, or 500 miles of range if you go for the extended range option.
I think there's still a lot of people out there right now, Craig, myself included, that are a little on the fence when it comes to electric.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's
new.
There's a lot of it that's still unknown. And that anxiety is understandable.
Yeah, so 0 to 60, 3.5 seconds, thanks to a motor at each axle, nearly 1,000 pound-feet of torque. They did not, however, mention horsepower, but I'm sure it's a whole heck of a lot.
I'm sure.
As for charging, you've got the NACS connector, or SAE J3400, which is rapidly becoming the industry standard. It's basically the Tesla plug. It's smaller and sleeker than CCS. There's an 800-volt battery architecture, and you get 350 kilowatts of peak DC fast charging, which is basically the best you can have today. This thing should charge very quickly, provided you can find a charger that's available with 350 kilowatts, and a Chevy Bolt isn't parked there. Towing, expect up to about 7,000 pounds for the Traveler, more than 10,000 for the Terra pickup truck. That is a lot. That's what a Ford Lightning tops out
That's
at.
a lot of that's a lot of grunt.
Yeah. And about nearly 2,000 pounds of payload capacity. And by my metrics, I think that's nearly a ton.
It is a ton.
Oh, okay.
2,000 pounds.
I will write that down.
2,000 pounds equals 1 ton.
So
I'm not good with numbers, but I know that equals a ton.
neither am I. That's why I'm in journalism. Production targeted for either late 2026 or 27. It was a little bit unclear. designing and engineering these vehicles in Michigan, but they're building them in South Carolina, of all places. Kind of unexpected.
Well, there are a lot of people building vehicles down there these days. So it's, to be honest, I'm not too surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is reassuring to know that the bulk of the work to design and engineer the vehicles was done in Michigan. Mm-hmm. It's nice to know we still have talent here. That's useful.
Well, you're training the next generation at the college.
Well, trying to.
Maybe he's having mixed results in the classroom. But,
no, I'm just self-effacing.
Yeah. So now we got to talk about pricing.
Yeah.
Always the hard part. So the Traveler with incentives is expected to start around $50,000. Retail price a little bit less than 60 grand, and I got to imagine that's the base model.
Probably. It probably is.
The plug-in, because I imagine it has a smaller battery pack, although we don't know right now. Mm-hmm. But you can reserve one of those right now for a fully refundable $100 deposit. So if you're interested, you could do that. Sounds like they're also doing a digital purchase process.
Yes. That's the interesting part, is I was thinking, okay, where are these going to be sold, and how's it going to happen? It sounds like they're going to bypass the VW dealer network entirely. It sounds like it's going to be its own thing, like you're dealing directly with Scout Motors. I think people are going to find that refreshing, too.
Yeah.
And thanks to companies like Carvana and other companies, the idea of ordering a car online and having it delivered to your door is not as weird an idea as it might have seemed 20 years ago. So, I think people will probably go along with that, especially if it's a new company.
All right, Jason, I got to put you on the spot. Letter grade for each of these vehicles. You're the design expert. How did they do? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What are you going to give it?
Well, I'm going to give them A's both, with the caveat. I like the Traveler better because it has more Scout flavor to me. Maybe it's that window.
A little heritage to it.
It has. I think that window carries a lot of weight with me.
So an A grade for both of them. Your friend did well.
He did well.
I agree.
I think I was surprised how many inside the biz design words were used, like DLO and dash to axle, things like that. And for all that inside jargon, I think there's enough there that will resonate with ordinary people who are not in the design biz.
Yeah.
As from a design's point of view, one of the things you don't want to do is design for other designers, because sometimes you can go down a rabbit hole that the public does not understand. They're going to get this. They're going to understand this, and it's beautifully crafted. I'm really pleased with both of them. So.
And I think it's an undeniably attractive vehicle. But anyway, that's a wrap for this video. Jason, thank you so much for your time and, of course, your expertise.
I really appreciate it, Craig. It's always a pleasure to work with you.
Glad to have you here. But if people want to learn more about you and what you've done, what you're currently doing, where can they learn more?
Well, I'm currently at College for Creative Studies, as you said, and they can visit collegeforcreativestudies.edu to learn more about the school. And myself personally, I'm an avid sim racer. You can find us on the web at internationalsimracing.org. We are currently in a kind of a PBS pledge drive mode because we have to
give us your money.
We need to renew our server for 2025. So whatever you can give, $5, $10, $20.
Well, Jason, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. And do please subscribe to the Automotive Esoterica YouTube channel so we can bring you more content just like this. And we will see you next time.